Welcome to The Explainer. Today we are decoding a truly fascinating astrological and psychological profile. We're looking at a concept that completely redefines how we process pressure and obligation. We're talking about Ketu in the 6th house, and specifically how it creates what's known as the illusion of calm. Now, if you've ever felt like your outer demeanor and your actual inner reality are existing in two totally different dimensions, well, you're definitely going to want to pay close attention to this one.
Let me ask you something, and I want you to be completely honest with yourself here. Do you appear perfectly calm, maybe even entirely unbothered to the outside world, while your daily life secretly spirals out of control? Like, do your friends and colleagues constantly praise you for being so chill, while behind closed doors your tasks are just piling up, your schedule's a total disaster, and you're secretly struggling with overwhelming chaos? Because if that hits a little too close to home, believe me, you are absolutely not alone.
Okay, let's dive into this. To understand exactly what's happening, we need to look at our foundational definition. Ketu in the 6th house represents this really unique phenomenon, where disconnection actively masks unresolved daily stress. Now, in both psychological and astrological frameworks, the 6th house rules over our daily routines, our health habits, and our everyday obligations. Ketu, meanwhile, represents a point of detachment, release, or sort of letting go. So when you put those two together, you get someone whose default coping mechanism is to simply disconnect from the mundane realities of life. Why? Mostly just to avoid feeling all that pressure.
Moving into Section 1, the mask of calm.
And this brilliantly illustrates the stark contrast we're dealing with. In practice, the outer appearance is one of complete calm during chaos. You project this incredibly steady aura of seeming indifference. But man, the inner reality is vastly different. Underneath that placid surface, everyday stress is quietly accumulating. Hidden anxiety is just actively brewing. Think of it literally like a boiling pot with a really heavy, tightly sealed lid. To everyone else looking in from the outside, the pot looks totally still, completely silent. But inside, the pressure is mounting, the water is bubbling, and it is quietly gathering all this energy that has absolutely nowhere to go.
Which brings up a really deceptive part of the psychological profile. Hidden anxiety often masquerades as simple indifference. And this false indifference, it's actually incredibly dangerous. Why? Well, because it tricks not just the people around you, but it actively tricks you. When your hidden anxiety manifests as you just shrugging your shoulders and saying, whatever, it makes it incredibly difficult for you to even recognize what truly requires your attention. You start severely underestimating just how much these unaddressed daily obligations are actively dragging down your mental and emotional well-being. That leads us right into Section 2, snowballing stress and responsibilities. Let's look at the real-world fallout of all this avoidance. First off, there's overlooking your body's stress signals. By being so mentally disconnected, you quite literally don't feel the tension creeping into your shoulders or the exhaustion setting in, which leads to a severely delayed awareness of physical or emotional strain. Second, you end up ignoring small responsibilities. Pretending that towering pile of dishes isn't slowly gaining sentience, or completely avoiding that dreaded reply-all email thread, right up until they suddenly morph into massive problems that demand your immediate attention. And third, avoiding workplace conflicts. You might think you're keeping the peace by walking away from a disagreement at work. But actually, scratch that. You aren't keeping the peace at all. You are just allowing that tension to remain entirely active in the background. Completely underestimating the impact of these daily obligations slowly but very surely sabotages your overall well-being. Let's move to and see how this builds in a very practical cause and effect way. Look at this. When you disconnect from routines, the result is inconsistent health, sporadic productivity, and just erratic daily habits. When you ignore minor tasks, well, they inevitably morph into large, urgent crises. And when you avoid work friction, that background tension stays perfectly active, humming away and quietly draining your daily energy. Your specific avoidance habits directly create the chaotic consequences in your health and your work. It is a direct one-to-one correlation. No way around it.
Section 3. The withdrawal panic cycle.
This maps out a deeply, deeply draining yo-yo effect. It starts with step 1. You completely withdraw from practical daily concerns. You just put the blinders on. But then, inevitably, comes step 2. All those unresolved work and life issues return unexpectedly, and usually they all hit at the exact same time. The ignored responsibilities and the ignored health symptoms come crashing back, which violently forces you into step 3, making sudden, completely frantic efforts to regain control. It is a massive, exhausting scramble to fix everything overnight, which rapidly burns you out and leads you right back to step 1, withdrawing all over again.
I really want to emphasize this point. Work pressure, or honestly any kind of daily pressure, may feel wonderfully distant when you disconnect from it, but it always returns.
Ignoring work friction or ignoring your bodily strain doesn't magically erase it from existence. It merely delays the inevitable crash. You are essentially taking out a high-interest loan against your own peace of mind, and eventually, the bill always comes due.
Let's pivot to the solution in Section 4, engaging for ultimate growth. Now, what's really interesting about this slide is just how highly counterintuitive this truth is. Your greatest growth comes from engaging with ordinary responsibilities consciously rather than escaping them. For someone dealing with this specific Ketu in the 6th house energy, the natural instinct is always to seek growth or peace by transcending the mundane, by floating above the daily grind. But the absolute truth of this profile is that the mundane is the cure. Doing the laundry, answering the email, scheduling the doctor's appointment, consciously engaging with those incredibly normal things is your actual path to peace.
So, the crucial point is this: consistent action reduces the very stress you are trying to avoid. By simply engaging consistently with your ordinary routines, you actively dismantle the boiling pot. You don't let the pressure build up in the first place. You completely bypass that exhausting withdrawal panic cycle. Conscious daily engagement is the ultimate, undeniable antidote to all of that hidden anxiety that's been masquerading as indifference.
As we wrap up this explainer, I want to leave you with a provocative question to chew on. What small responsibility will you stop escaping today? Seriously, don't try to fix the entire cycle all at once. That's a trap. Just pick one single thing, one ignored task, maybe a 15-minute walk for your health, or one minor conversation you've been putting off. Tackle it today consciously. Take back your power from the illusion of calm and start building real, lasting peace through your daily routine. Thanks so much for joining me for this explainer, and I'll catch you next time.